One of the key figures in Stoicism was the philosopher Emperor Marcus Aurelius, known for his book Meditations. The concept of greatness is often vague, but few individuals in history have embodied it more completely than he did. This isn't just another self-help discussion. Instead, the philosophy that Marcus Aurelius practiced and wrote about serves as a powerful remedy to many of the struggles we face in modern life. Let's explore why. Marcus Aurelius ruled as the Emperor of Rome from 161 to 180 AD. He was the last of the 5 good emperors, overseeing a period known as the Pax Romana, or Roman peace. In fact, with his passing, that era of stability came to an end. As emperor, Marcus was the most powerful man in the world. To the Romans, their empire was the entire known world, making Marcus, in their eyes, ruler of all that existed. With such absolute power, he could have had anything he desired. The lifestyle of a Roman emperor was synonymous with indulgence, excessive wealth, lavish feasts, pleasure in all forms. These were not just available, they were expected. Temptation was boundless. There were no legal or moral constraints to hold him back. Yet, despite having every opportunity to indulge in a life of unchecked luxury, Marcus Aurelius chose a different path. He chose virtue, not just in a single moment, not for appearances, but as a way of life. Every day, for nearly 2 decades as emperor, Marcus Aurelius remained true to his principles. He chose to be a man of discipline and wisdom. Being good does not automatically make one great, but imagine facing endless temptations and choosing time and again to uphold virtue, not for recognition, not for admiration, but simply because it was right. That is remarkable. Consider yourself in his position. If you had that kind of power and freedom, could you resist temptation every single day for 20 years? Could you remain steadfast in your values, knowing that no one could hold you accountable? For Marcus, virtue wasn't just a philosophy, it was his way of life. And we know this because his truest self was revealed in his private writings. Meditations was never meant to be published. It was not a book for an audience. It was Marcus Aurelius's personal journal, a collection of thoughts and reflections meant only for himself. Despite its private nature, Meditations remains one of the most profound and timeless works of philosophy. It offers a glimpse into the mind of a man who, even in solitude, upheld his principles. Marcus believed that to live well was to live in accordance with nature. Not just nature as in trees and animals, but the natural order of the universe itself. A tree grows to its fullest potential, not for praise or recognition, but simply because that is what it is meant to do. A caterpillar becomes a butterfly, not by choice, but by design. In the same way, Marcus believed that human beings are meant to reach their highest potential, not for wealth or status, but because it is their duty. The purpose of life was not to accumulate possessions or seek external rewards, but to cultivate virtue and wisdom. For Marcus, the greatest failure was not hardship, not suffering, not even death. The greatest failure was falling short of one's potential. Because while we cannot control what happens in the world, we can control how we respond to it. A great person does not break under pressure. A great person does not let external events dictate their character. A great person rises to meet every challenge with virtue and strength. This was Marcus's philosophy. As emperor, he understood that life was filled with difficult people. He accepted that there would always be those who were selfish, dishonest, or cruel. Wishing for a world without such people was as foolish as wishing for a rose without thorns. Instead of resentment, Marcus approached people with understanding. He believed that no one deliberately chooses to be wicked. Wrongdoing stems from ignorance. And while we can try to guide others, we must also accept that some will not change. When faced with difficult people, Marcus reminded himself, I have my own faults too. Who am I to judge? Perhaps he thought in another situation, in another time, he might be the one who was blind to his own ignorance. This perspective allowed him to act with patience and kindness, recognizing that just like everything in nature, people have their role to play. He believed that we were all born to help one another, just as trees bear fruit for animals and rivers flow to nourish the land. To turn away from this responsibility was the only true failure, and adversity. That too was part of life. Marcus did not ask for an easy path. Instead, he trained himself to welcome challenges, seeing them as opportunities to strengthen his resolve. He wrote to himself, "Do not pray for an easy life. Pray for the strength to endure a hard one." Hardship, he believed, was not something to fear, but something to embrace. Each difficulty was a test, an opportunity to prove resilience, to rise above misfortune, to keep moving forward. Complaining was pointless. Either an obstacle could be overcome or it couldn't. If it could, there was no need to despair. If it couldn't, then it was outside of one's control, and worrying about it would change nothing. Marcus lived by this principle. Endure what must be endured, act where you can act, and never waste energy on things beyond your control. This attitude extended even to material wealth. Marcus had access to unimaginable riches, yet he never allowed possessions to define his life. He reminded himself, "Do not desire what you do not have. Instead, appreciate what you already possess. And if one day all is taken away, remember, these things were never truly yours. Wealth, status, power, none of these could bring lasting happiness." True happiness, he believed, came only from within. And perhaps most importantly, Marcus Aurelius often reflected on death, not as something to fear, but as a natural part of life. Death is inevitable. It is not an enemy to be defeated, but a duty to be fulfilled. Just as we are born, so too must we die. And so, he urged himself and others, while you live, live well, be kind, be just, fulfill your role in nature, and when the time comes, accept death with grace, as you would any other part of life. This was Stoicism. For Marcus Aurelius and the Stoics, happiness was not found in pleasure, wealth, or fame. It was found in living a virtuous life. True greatness was not measured by external success, but by one's ability to meet life's trials with wisdom and resilience. And in the end, Marcus Aurelius believed that we all have the power to rise to our highest potential, because it is in our nature to do so.